Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from StreetScores, and I'm coming with a big-time Commanders versus Buccaneers preview matchup, man. We're going to talk about how the refs will call the game. We have some really interesting stats about that, like which calls this referee crew tends to not call, which they do call, all that type of stuff. And I hope the Commanders are aware of this and game plan towards that. Also, I'm going to break down why the Washington Commanders will win this game, and I also have a lot of stats. The majority of this video are stats that will determine the outcome of this game. We're going to break it all down, but before we get into everything, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned, follow the content. Of course, I will be live streaming this game later on tonight. Make sure you pull up. I'll be live streaming the entire 4 quarters, play-by-play analysis, breaking down everything. And after we win, we'll have a call-in show victory live stream where y'all call in and you voice your celebrations and everything like that. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Make sure you pull up for the live stream. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this video right now. Let's get it. Adam. All right, let's take it back first of all. I feel like we need to start with some precursor stats right now, because the Washington Commanders, the last time we won a playoff game, how about January 7th, 2006 against this very exact team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It was in Tampa Bay as well, just like this game will be, and that was the Sean Taylor fumble return touchdown. This is the last time that we won a playoff game at all. It just happens to be against the same team. It also happens to be, basically won by the guy whose jersey I'm wearing right now. Also, the last time the Commanders won a playoff game, which was all the way back in 2005 technically, Dan Quinn was the defensive lines coach for the Dolphins. Cliff Kingsbury was the quarterback for the New York Jets, and Jaden Daniels was in kindergarten. That is absolutely insane, man. Also, shouts out to my boy Disco for these fun facts. Joe Gibbs worked as a scout for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Joe Gibbs was the only scout that went to go see Doug Williams play at Grambling. Doug Williams became a school teacher, and Gibbs went to see him almost every day. Joe Gibbs convinced the Buccaneers to draft Doug Williams. Then Joe Gibbs eventually traded Williams to Oakland when he was with the Redskins, but rescinded the trade, and then Joe Gibbs called Williams Douglas, the only one he allows to call him that. That is some crazy history right there, and the reason I'm bringing that up now is because a lot of this stuff started with Joe Gibbs, being a scout for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now that all came full circle for them to come, reconvene back with the Washington Redskins back then, and the fact that we won a Super Bowl under that situation. So that's crazy. That's some, serious history. We also have some serious history with this team specifically, because did you know that this is only our 9th playoff game this entire century? Did y'all know that? And four of them, including this one coming up, will have been against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers specifically. Then you have the Seattle Seahawks 3 times, the Detroit Lions once, and the Green Bay Packers once. But out of the 9 times we've gone to the playoffs, 4 our opponents have been the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 4 times, the most out of any other team. It was a tie between the Buccaneers and the Seattle Seahawks. Now the Buccaneers have the lead with 4. Also, shouts out to my boy Mason Kinahan. I'm going to have these stats up while we talk about a lot of other stats today, but I just wanted to give you a visual representation. Shouts out again Mason Kinahan for putting this together himself. You can already see the stats, so I won't even necessarily read them off because there's a lot going on there anyway. But I want to move on and say that the Commanders' total offense is 4th, and then our total defense is 9th, and our scoring offense is 6th. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers scoring offense is 3rd, 1 better than ours. Their total defense is 21st, 12 worse than ours. And their scoring offense is 5th, only 1 better than ours. So if you really take all of the averages, sounds like we are the better teams. And if you take a look at a lot of power rankings, a lot of people feel like we are better than the Buccaneers. They just happen to be the home team because they won their sorry little division. Also, number of times that the Commanders have given up 4 sacks in a game this season. The first 11 games only happened once. These last 6 games, it's happened 4 times. That is insane. First 11 games only once. Last 6 games, 4 times. I really wanted to repeat that because I don't think y'all understand how crazy that is. We got to figure that out. Now, granted, I blame a lot of that on offensive line injuries, and this is like the first time in a long time that our entire offensive line will be healthy. That's going to be pivotal for this upcoming matchup against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because they don't really rush the passer very well. They have really good interior defensive linemen with Vita Vea there. Y'all know how big of a fan I was of Vita Vea way back when he was coming out of the draft and everything. So I'm still happy to see him balling out. I just need him to not ball out against us today. But their interior defensive line is great as far as stopping and running things like that, but they're not really good at getting after the quarterback just from their defensive line only. That's why they blitz a lot. So we'll talk about that soon. Also, the Commanders have allowed 20 sacks over the last 4 games alone, with the Cowboys being 6 of them by themselves. And of those 6 against the Cowboys, Dan Quinn blamed 3 of them, saying that like Jaden Daniels could have just thrown the ball away, because Jaden Daniels does have a propensity to where like he's right there at the sideline, he's scrambling out of the pocket. Now granted, the offensive line deserves a lot of blame for the reason that Jaden Daniels even has to scramble out of the pocket, but then he's like 2, 3, maybe 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage. He's right there on the sideline, and instead of just going ahead and throwing it out of bounds to make it so we don't lose any yardage, he'll just walk out of bounds, which I mean, hey, I'll take that over him taking a big hit or even, you know, fumble or interception, whatever. Like, I'll take whatever he's doing right now, but the way that he could improve right there is just to throw it out of bounds, because he'll just walk right out of bounds, and then that's technically a sack even though no defender touched him. The nearest defender gets credit with the sack. So it'd be nice if Jaden Daniels could cut down on that just a little bit so that we don't fall as far behind the sticks. Like, you know, instead of it being 2nd and 13 or 2nd and 14, it's 2nd and 10. You know what I'm saying? So hopefully Jaden Daniels can work on that. Also, speaking of Jaden Daniels, man, under pressure, this guy is elite. That's why I'm not sure about blitzing him, but if you don't blitz him, that probably makes things even worse, because Jaden Daniels is extremely efficient when pressured. He's 3rd according to Summer Sports out of all quarterbacks in EPA per play when it comes to being blitzed. He's 7th in passing and 1st in running. So when you pressure Jaden Daniels, be ready. He's arguably the best quarterback in the NFL when it comes to dealing with being pressured. So the fact that our offensive line is the healthiest it's been since probably all season, at least the healthiest it's been compared to most of the season, and then Jaden Daniels is that elite against pressure. How about the blitz specifically? Well, QBR against the blitz, 90. That's 2nd out of the entire NFL. How about 20-yard completions? 20. That's 1st out of the NFL. How about scramble yards? 203. That's 1st out of the NFL as well. And just to let you know, the Buccaneers blitz 36% of their plays this year defensively. 36. That's the 3rd highest in the NFL. But again, I'm telling you, Jaden Daniels QBR 2nd in the NFL. 20-yard completions 1st, scramble yards 1st. Jaden Daniels against the blitz is the most dangerous quarterback in the entire NFL, and that's literally what the Buccaneers do best. So Jaden Daniels is the best quarterback at countering what the Buccaneers want to do the most. If I'm a Buccaneers fan, I'm not gonna lie, I'm scared. You know what I'm saying? Jaden Daniels is the exact right quarterback, the kryptonite to their superpower. Now, also, shouts out to NFL Stroud, because he brings up a good point about the Buccaneers' offensive game plan versus Washington. He said, quote, "They can run the football on Washington. This is a running team, make no mistake about it. They're going to come out and try to limit the possessions against Jaden Daniels. The kid is so special. They respect the quarterback," unquote. And that's a good point. So our defense needs to do a good job of getting the Buccaneers off the field, because honestly, the best defense against Jaden Daniels is to just not let him be on the field. For the opposing team's offense to stay on the field as much as possible, have Jaden Daniels sitting on that sideline. That's literally the only way you can really stop him for real, especially on a consistent basis, is he's not on the field. So, hey, Commanders defense, do y'all part and make sure Jaden Daniels is on that field as much as possible, because he's going to do his job. Y'all got to do y'all job and make sure he's on the field. I'm pretty sure the Buccaneers are coming into this game knowing, okay, we love to blitz people. We're the 3rd highest blitz rate defense in the entire NFL, but Jaden Daniels is literally the best quarterback in the NFL against the blitz. So what we normally like to do is not going to work. So how are we going to limit him? It's not going to be with our defense. It's actually going to be with our offense. We can't allow Jaden Daniels to get on that field. I hope the Commanders are knowing that coming into this game. Also, shouts out to Tan Top Podcast for this one. They said the Buccaneers are 1-6 in games where they allow more than 23 points. Well, let me add to that and let you know that the Commanders have scored 28.5 points per game. We score well over the average of what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers usually lose games allowing other teams to score. So again, They're 1-6 when teams score 23 points, no more than 23 points on them this season. And again, we average 28.5, which is 5th in the entire NFL. Let's get it, man. I love that matchup as well. Also, the Commanders have scored a touchdown on 30.7% of their drives, which is 5th in the NFL. The Bucs have scored a touchdown on 66.7% of their red zone trips, 46 of 69. That's 4th in the NFL. But Washington has scored a touchdown on 63.4% of their red zone trips. That's 45 of 71, which is 6th. These are very efficient offenses right here. The Commanders are dangerously efficient at just making sure they score touchdowns every time they touch the ball, just in general. But then when it comes to the red zone, the Buccaneers are 4th and the Commanders are 6th as far as turning red zone drives into touchdowns. We've had a couple of games this year where we struggled with that, but for the most part, we've been one of the most dangerous teams in the red zone. But don't get it confused, the Buccaneers are the same way as well. So I'm pretty sure the main strategy for these defenses, and of course it's easier said than done, and of course this is an obvious thing that you're trying to do every game you step into, but it's really a point of emphasis to not allow either team's offense get to the red zone, because these are two very efficient red zone offenses. And Jaden Daniels' legs and his ability to his decision-making skills, all of that is a big role into why our red zone offense is so ridiculous. And now having Austin Eckler back too with the healthy offensive line, Tyler Biadasz at center, come on, man. I think our red zone offense is going to get right back to what it was when it used to be number 1 in the NFL at a certain point in time. Also, shouts out to Rondé Barber. That's a former Tampa Bay Buccaneer himself. He says that where he sees the biggest Commanders advantage is, he said his exact quote was, "My biggest fear for the Bucs is Jaden Daniels against a banged up secondary," unquote. Remember, this Tampa Bay Buccaneers secondary is super banged up. Either guys are not playing at all, they're completely already listed as out in the game, injured reserve, whatever, or even if they are playing, they are very hurt. This secondary is very susceptible to a Jaden Daniels masterclass. Even just talent-wise, it's already like, man, I'm not sure about this secondary versus Jaden Daniels. But then on top of that, the fact that they're extremely hurt is really scary. Also, in the last 2 minutes of games in the fourth quarter, the Commanders' passing game is insanely clutch. We are 2nd in EPA per play with a 0.494. Again, we're just talking about 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter only. We're 2nd in EPA per play. We're 1st in passing touchdowns with 6. We're 1st in adjusted completion percentage with 85.4%, which means like when your receivers are dropping passes, but that's not reflective on Jaden Daniels. When you eliminate drops from receivers, just pure receiver should have caught it, Jaden Daniels threw it where it needed to be. Jaden Daniels is 1st in adjusted completion percentage with 2 minutes left in the game. He's 1st in QBR, period, 131.7. He's 1st in Pro Football Focus passer rating with a 90.6. He's tied for 1st in turnover-worthy plays with 0. When it's 2 minutes left in the game, this boy Jaden Daniels has 0 turnover-worthy plays. And then he's 2nd in yards per attempt with 8.7. But it's crazy that he's even 2nd in that, because this guy, he's not even going for like a lucky explosive play. And I actually like the fact that he's not 1st in this, because some quarterbacks may get lucky. They'll throw like maybe a slant, the guy take it for 80 yards. No, Jaden Daniels in a lot of these game-winning drives is slow, methodical, Tom Brady-like drives where he's in complete control and he's getting you 5 yards here, 7 yards here, 3-yard gain with his legs, 4-yard throw, 5-yard throw for the first down. Like, it's like little slow, like, death by 1,000 cuts type of stuff. Again, Tom Brady level stuff where there's no luck, it's no fluke, there's no just throw it to the receiver, explosive play, he breaks it off for 60, 70, 80 yards or something like that. These are slow 15-yard drives. Jaden Daniels taking you all the way down the field and ending the game. It's insane stuff, man. I would prefer that than just a random lucky explosive play. So it's crazy that he's still 2nd in yards per attempt, because this guy's not even trying to go for the big lucky play. He's gonna just take it down there and do you filthy the worst way possible, the one that like demoralizes a defense mentally, man, where it's like, how do we stop this guy? It's play after play after play. So again, he's 2nd in 2 categories and he's 1st in another 6 categories when it comes to 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Jaden Daniels, I'm telling you, if the game is close and Jaden Daniels has the ball last, go ahead and buckle up, man. We're headed to the next set of playoff games, basically. Also, moving on to this cornerback situation for the Washington Commanders, because that's going to be a huge point of emphasis. Well, let me let you know. Week 1 quarterback snap counts versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where Baker Mayfield went for 289 yards and 4 passing touchdowns. Shouts out to Ref the District for this one. At outside corner, you have St. Juice with 56 snaps. Emmanuel Forbes with 32 snaps. And then Noah Benogany was also outside corner back then with 25 snaps. Mike Sanderstill was in the slot for 45 snaps. I can't emphasize enough to you how just insanely different this defense is compared to the last time we played the Buccaneers, man. I mean, I don't think people fully grasp the concept that we had Emmanuel Forbes out there playing 32 snaps last time we played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, man. I don't think, and then even just Jaden Daniels, just to go back to the quarterback situation real quick before we continue with the cornerback situation. I mean, Jaden Daniels was a completely different quarterback back then. He told Chris Sims in an interview like a couple of weeks ago that was like the only game he was nervous for all year. That was by far the most nervous he's been for any game. And then that was back then when he still didn't necessarily try to throw it over the middle. It wasn't until the second half of the Giants game that he started throwing over the middle. He wasn't still like looking up while running with the ball, while scrambling, looking to throw it. He was still had those same college habits from LSU, where if he took off running, he was gone. He was not scrambling to look to throw. He was running it himself. He didn't gain that ability to start looking up while throwing until arguably like week 3 against the Bengals. Like, this is a completely different team. And going back to the cornerback position, this is probably the part that's the most different, man. It's absolutely insane. Shouts out to Bleeding Burgundy and Gold for pointing this out as well. Because remember, in that Buccaneers game, Benjamin St. Juice's dropped interception against Tampa Bay was a huge turning point in that game. Tampa would eventually go on to score on that drive, and then Baker led the league in interceptions this year. Remember that. So we can't leave those on the field on Sunday. You got to make a play when he gives you one. Baker Mayfield does lead the NFL in interceptions this year, so you got to be ready to catch them. Lattimore, Sanderstill, all of y'all. Speaking of Sanderstill, even going back to the Buccaneers game, that was his first game in the NFL. He was also still in the slot. I just pointed that out earlier, but I really want to emphasize the fact that this was a time when even Joe Wood Jr. and Dan Quinn didn't know how to get the most out of the guys that they had, most notably Mike Sanderstill, where again, he played like 45 snaps in the slot. This guy hasn't played in the slot since like week 3, 4, or 5 or something like that. He's been a pure outside corner, technically our number 1 corner whenever Marshawn Lattimore has not been on the field. He's been our number 1 outside corner. I don't think y'all understand how drastically different that is to be a slot corner or an outside corner. Again, this defense didn't even know how to utilize their pieces, their chessboard, and you know, get the most out of them at that point in time. Like we were just trying stuff. Again, it was week 1 of the regular season after we had the most roster turnover, the most coaching staff turnover, front office turnover out of the entire NFL, arguably some of the biggest turnover from one season to the next in NFL history. Meanwhile, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers pretty much came into the season with most of the exact guys they had last year, at least when it comes to impactful starters. And so they pretty much just kept it going from their previous game of, you know, I think, well, of course they lost in the playoffs, but before that they whooped the Eagles in the playoff game. Like, they had this chemistry that they carried over into that week 1 regular season game where we were just raw, we was trying whatever, just like, let's see if this works, let's see if this works, let's see if this works. Now we know it works. And hey, them Tampa Bay Buccaneers better be ready, because this is a completely different team. I already told you about Jaden Daniels. Already told you about the fact that Emmanuel Forbes and Benjamin St. Juice were playing a ridiculous amount of snaps. But don't forget the Mike Sanderstill, who is one of the best corners in the NFL already. I'm going to go ahead and say it. And he had a terrible game against them because he didn't know what he was doing, and Joe Wood Jr. and Dan Quinn didn't know what they were doing with him. And then even on top of that, Marshawn Lattimore versus Mike Evans specifically. I mean, it's bad. Mike Evans is at his worst when Marshawn Lattimore is covering him, not only just on the field, but also technically off the field as well. We'll get to that, because regular season wise, he has 33 receptions, 564 yards, and 3 reception touchdowns. Just to let you know, on a per game basis, remember these guys used to play 2 games a year, 2.75 receptions per game against Marshawn Lattimore. Terrible. 47 yards per game. Not good. 0.25 reception touchdowns per game. All well below his career averages. And then playoff wise, the one time they faced, 1 reception for 3 yards. Mike Evans versus Marshawn Lattimore. It is really bad what Marshawn Lattimore does to Mike Evans, man, especially in the playoffs. And then on top of that, between the two, Marshawn Lattimore has only been fined $10,500 when going against Mike Evans from, on the field antics and things like that, unnecessary references, stuff like that. But he's never been suspended. How about Mike Evans has been fined over $100,000 when going against Marshawn Lattimore, and he's been suspended one game twice against Marshawn Lattimore. When you're talking about getting into somebody's head and getting them out of their game, getting under their skin, nobody does it better than Marshawn Lattimore versus Mike Evans. So remember, Mike Evans last time, I think he hit us for 2 touchdowns. With Marshawn Lattimore out there, I highly doubt he does that. I highly doubt it. Remember, Chris Godwin was killing us last time we played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers week 1. And again, Benjamin St-Juste and Emmanuel Forbes out there playing 30-plus snaps, that'll do it. But now Chris Godwin isn't even going to play in this game. Now, granted, that McMillan kid is balling, but we got Mike Sanders still for that. Mike Evans, we got Marshawn Lattimore for that. I can't wait to see how this matchup goes. I'm very optimistic as a Commanders fan. I don't think people understand how different this team is from the last time we played those guys. Also, shouts out to Brett Coleman for this one. He pointed out the fact that the Bucs and the Commanders have the same amount of average plays run per game, but the Commanders' average play clock left at the snap is 11.3 seconds. The Buccaneers' average play clock left at the snap is 8.4 seconds. Over the course of an entire game, that is the difference in time of possession of over 3 minutes. That's a good point. We run hurry-up offense. The Buccaneers don't. And so when you're looking at time of possession, just sort of remember that the Commanders run plays way quicker. So, and over the course of a game, that's a 3-minute difference. Thank you, Brett Coleman, for that one. Also, I want to point out the fact that the Buccaneers are terrible against running backs and tight ends this entire season of 2024. They've let some running backs that aren't even that good, some tight ends that aren't even that great, go crazy on them. And then the good ones ball out against them. So 2024 is the year where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers cannot stop running backs and tight ends. So it's time for Zach Ertz to have the game of his life. He's caught some steam. He's on fire right now, man. These last 2-3 games, Zach Ertz has been insane. We need him to continue that. I don't know if Jaden Daniels and him finally have that training camp chemistry going on right now. If Cliff Kingsbury's found a way to utilize them, I don't know, but keep that going, please. Also, having Austin Eckler and Brian Robinson healthy at the same time hasn't been a lot of games we've had that this year, so I'm expecting those guys to go crazy as well. Again, I really want to emphasize the fact that we have Tyler Biadasz, our starting center, healthy, and whenever he has not been healthy, Brian Robinson has pretty much been useless, because that means he can't run it up the middle because Michael Dieter's just getting blown off the ball, obliterated by the opposing defensive line. And then Brian Robinson doesn't have the vision nor the explosion and quickness to bounce runs outside effectively. So having Tyler Biadasz back at center is automatically going to make Brian Robinson better. Austin Eckler just existing makes Brian Robinson better, because defenses have to thin out the box worrying about Austin Eckler in the passing game. I mean, this is going to be like an insane chess match that I'm really excited about. And the fact that the Commanders are fully loaded, their arsenal is ready to go, fully staffed, I'm really excited about this matchup. And we'll see, man, even if Chris Rodriguez gets some playing time, man, you know how demoralizing it is for a guy that can break 3 tackles in one play to keep getting the ball. That's going to tire them Buccaneers out. And Levante David's only getting older, man. Bobby Wagner had a better year than Levante David. People necessarily may not want to talk about it, but Bobby Wagner, between the 2 older linebackers, Bobby Wagner's been better. So I'm expecting him to be better in this game as well. Let's have Levante David running all over the place, have him tired by the 3rd quarter, and we start running up that score. Also, Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers offense are the best in the NFL on 3rd down. While Washington's 3rd down defense ranks in the middle of the pack at 15th, we got to get off the field on 3rd down. They are the best 3rd down offense in the NFL. If we can slow that down and cause them to have one of their worst 3rd down efficiencies on offense this season, we win this game. If we can find a way to magically get off the field on 3rd downs more consistently than we typically do, we could truly win this game. Also, shouts out to Mason Canan for pointing this one out. Baker Mayfield has rarely been pressured this season, but when he does, his passer rating drops from 111.8 when he's not pressured to 84.8 when he is pressured. We got to get after him. Remember, back in week 1, we were on his tail. We had him pressured the majority of the game. We just couldn't convert them to sacks. Remember, he threw 4 touchdowns and 0 interceptions against us, even with all of the pressure. We had a pressure to sack rate of only 25.2%. That's insane. That's unacceptable. We gotta be better. Again, this guy loves to throw turnovers. You gotta be ready to do that, and I think the defensive line getting after him is going to play a huge role into that, man. Dante Fowler, Frankie Louvu, Dorrance Armstrong, we're gonna need y'all big time. Well, of course, we also need the interior defensive line that we're paying the majority of our cap space to, and Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne to finally step up this year as well. And speaking of Deron Payne, I want to remind you that Deron Payne's best game probably of his life was the previous playoff game we had against these Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Back in 2020, Deron Payne had 2 sacks and 3 quarterback hits on Tom Brady. He also forced a fumble. I think he had like 2 tackles for losses, and that was the season that he only had 3 sacks. Just to let you know, he had 2 sacks against the Buccaneers in that playoff game that year. That same year, he only had 3 sacks the entire season. So it's something about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Maybe Deron Payne just has, I don't know, maybe he sees red, but we're going to need that tonight, Deron Payne. Please, man, if you had to pick one game this season to go crazy, make it this one. Also, now let's talk about these refs. As you can see on the screen right now, here are the referee assignments for Wild Card Weekend. Now, granted, a lot of these games have already happened, but just to show y'all, just to let you know, we do have Craig Wolfstad. I hope that's how you pronounce that. Either way, though, shouts out to NFL Ref Stats on Twitter for pointing this out. The officiating crew cheat sheet, Craig Wolfstad is head ref with additions from Ron Torbert's crew since 2016. Home teams are just 41% ATS with Wolfstad, including a 6-10 ATS, 38% in 2024. For some reason, whenever this referee crew, especially led by Craig, is refereeing a game, they're responsible for a game, for some reason the home team is at a disadvantage. So the away team, in our case, the Commanders are at a referee advantage, a calling advantage right now. Also, his crew was #1 in calling pre-snap penalties. They were #1 in delay of game and defensive offsides, and top 5 for illegal shift and ineligible man down the field calls this year. So you gotta watch out for those. I'm not necessarily worried about delay of games. I'm not necessarily worried about defensive offsides, except for Mike Stanford still being offsides or in the neutral zone on a punt on a field goal for some reason a couple of weeks ago. Or was that against the Cowboys or the Falcons? One of those. And then I'm not necessarily super worried about illegal shift, but an ineligible man downfield has been killing us quite a bit this year, so we gotta watch for that. I hope the Commanders are aware of this. If I have this information, I'm assuming they have it as well. Also, continuing with the information, the bottom line is these guys focus more around the line of scrimmage than most crews, so y'all better keep it clean around the line of scrimmage and make sure y'all do everything else right. They also rank #1 and 2 respectively for taunting, so if the Lattimore versus Mike Evans matchup occurs, taunting may come into play here big time. Also, his crew ranks 2nd in penalties per game. However, his last 3 playoff games averaged just 7.5 penalties, and they should dial back the calls on Sunday Night Football as well. Also, home teams are 3-2 SU and ATS in Wolfstad's playoff career, including Tampa Bay in a loss to the Dallas Cowboys in 2022 and a Tampa Bay win versus the Philadelphia Eagles in 2021. But continuing with the information, Tampa Bay penalty issues occur overwhelmingly in 3 categories: false start, offensive holding, and defensive offsides. Those account for 55.5% of the team penalties this year, and the league's average is 46.4. And also, third down alert. Washington's defense is the #1 penalized unit in the NFL on third downs this year. We really got to watch for that, but keeping Benjamin St-Juste off the field is going to be a big help for that. Michael Davis, more than likely not getting a single snap in this game, is going to help with that as well. So I'm not as worried about that, but that is something to watch out for. Also, Craig's crew call a disproportionate percentage of penalties on 1st and 2nd down, then dial back big time on 3rd down. So, whoo! Thank goodness for the Commanders. Just 17.8% of their penalties are called on 3rd downs, with 56% on the offense most of the time, even if it is on 3rd down. So, this is the referee crew that the Commanders needed. Thank goodness. This will benefit the Commanders in this contest if form holds. I don't have a strong opinion either way, but there will be an upset this weekend, and this may be the game. He predicted the Commanders to win 27-24. Again, the way that this is setting up based off of history, the referees are on the Commander side here when it comes to the away games, when it comes to the type of penalties that they like to call that they're looking for. The Commanders are at an advantage when it comes to the referees. We'll see how that goes. Also, of course, no team has beaten us twice this year. The Dallas Cowboys beat us first time. We beat them the second time. Eagles beat us the first time. We beat them the second time. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers beat us once. Week 1 of the regular season. Again, no team has beaten the Jaden Daniels-led Commanders team twice this year. Let's make sure that does not happen. Also, I'm not going to wear my black Jaden Daniels jersey. I will be doing my part in wearing the Sean Taylor jersey that you see me in right now. The win-loss difference in the two jerseys is so ridiculous. I don't even want to say it. I know I've given you all of these stats. I'm not going to give you that one. Just know I will be wearing my Sean Taylor jersey for the game. Also, moving on, the Commanders open up as 3-point underdogs versus Tampa Bay, and I like it like that. Thank you, Vegas. But the crazy part is Vegas feels that way. It seems like all of the NFL analysts that you watch on TV feel the exact opposite, because ESPN-wise, Louis Riddick, EJ Manuel, Dan Graziano, and Ryan Clark all picked the Washington Commanders to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mean, Lord. Then you go to the other ESPN crew. Damian Woody, Dan Orlovsky, and Marcus Pierce all picked the Washington Commanders as well. Rex Ryan was the only one to pick the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And then when you go to NFL Network, you know how they have their 10 guys? It's 5-5. With half of the people choosing the Commanders, half of the people picking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But what's crazy is that Adam Rank is one of the ones that picked us to win. And I honestly believe he's just trying to jinx us or something, bro. He doesn't honestly believe or even want us to win. That guy hates us more than any other analyst that you'll ever see on TV. People talk about the guy from Pro Football Talk, but nobody hates us more than Adam Rank, man. Nobody. But he's a Chicago Bears fan, so that should tell you everything you need to know about why he hates us. That Hail Mary play, boy. Man, that's kept them up at night all year. Also, some other people are, like, interestingly enough, picking us to win. Like Michael Parsons picked the Commanders to beat the Buccaneers. He said on his podcast, quote, "I think Washington gets their lick back. Jaden Daniels, he's going to be ready. He's going to be ready," unquote. And then even Mina Kimes sounds like she's leaning towards the Commanders, because she said, quote, "This is a Bucs defense that has struggled against scrambling quarterbacks all year long," unquote. And she has a whole video breaking down how Jaden Daniels is the worst nightmare for a Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense that struggles against running quarterbacks. Because again, like I've already pointed out to y'all with the stats, Jaden Daniels is the best running quarterback in the NFL when it comes to dealing with the blitz, all sorts. When it comes to the final 2 minutes of the game, Buccaneers, you better buckle up. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in the video. How do you feel about this matchup that's coming up? And it's 3:59 p.m. right now, so this game will start in about 4 hours. I will be live streaming by then. But let me know how you feel about this upcoming matchup. Of course, after the game, I know a lot of people are going to come back to this and see if I was right or wrong. I'm definitely predicting the Commanders to win this game. I'm seeing Jaden Daniels game-winning touchdown drive. I can't necessarily exactly think of a score, but I'm seeing Jaden Daniels game-winning touchdown drive. But I also wouldn't be surprised with, again, as many matchups that we have an advantage for, I wouldn't be surprised if we actually win this game comfortably, because Dan Quinn even said it earlier this week after the final Cowboys win. He said that, yeah, winning all of these games in clutch time the way that we do, like, it's great. You know what I'm saying? This definitely has us prepared for playoff football. But also, man, you can just go out there and win comfortably if you want to. There's nothing in the NFL rulebook that says that Jaden Daniels has to lead game-winning drives every time you play tough opponents. You can just go out there and win by double digits if you really want to. Like, that's basically what Dan Quinn was saying. So don't be surprised if this team comes out with the mentality of, let's just go ahead and put this game away early, man. So, hey, let's try to turn this into that Titans game. I highly doubt we do, but let's do it. Again, I predict Jaden Daniels game-winning touchdown drive, but let me know how y'all predict this to go, whether it be by score or how it ends, whatever. Let me know how y'all feel about all of that. Of course, do not leave this video without leaving a like. If you made it this far in the video, I salute you. I really appreciate y'all. Make sure y'all pull up for the live stream later on tonight, and I'll catch y'all later. Appreciate y'all. I'm out.